A little puggy ASMR to start off this video for you guys. And with that said, good morning, Magic players and card collectors of all kinds. Hopefully it's a good morning for you guys. It's kind of a weird morning for us. To be honest, it's been kind of I can't swear quite yet. I haven't got 30 seconds into the video yet. It's been a terrible week at work, to the extent that I decided to take a mental health day today because between everything I've been dealing with over the last 4 days, what was said to me yesterday, I didn't feel comfortable trying to go in and work today with the potential that I might get really upset because apparently I'm being very closely monitored for that at work. Instead of addressing problems at work that upset me, that I try to bring to them to get them to fix, because it would be easy things that they could just address that other workers aren't doing, things like that nature. They have a tendency to take it out on me for being upset in the first place, because that upsets other people around me, supposedly. So, yeah. Fun little fact slash tidbit about this week. So, yeah, I haven't decided what I'm going to do about that yet, but I knew that I needed a break from the workplace today, so I stayed home. Thought it'd be, a nice day to spend with Kaiba, but it ended up being a really shite day outside. I'm pretty sure I can get shite in there now. So we're stuck in here, and he's a little stir crazy. So we've been playing some with Yoda over here, and we played with Monkey, and we played with Witchy Pug. And I tried to get him to go out for a bit, did a pee-pee, came right back in. And my dad took off for the day. And since I'm home for the day, it gives me extra time. So I'm filming this video today. And I'm also going to film the choice of the commander video for tomorrow, today. And if all really goes well, and there's enough space on my phone, maybe I'll even do Super Deck Sunday today. Which, FYI, for you Magic players, it will be a Yu-Gi-Oh! Video this week. It was Magic last week, so it's Yu-Gi-Oh!'s turn. If you are interested in Magic only, I apologize in advance. That said, since Yu-Gi-Oh! Is kind of crazy, and it's a little bit different, and it isn't Magic, I thought maybe I might toss in a Infinity pack or two opening into that video as well. Because I do love my Infinity, and we are still hunting for all those dual lands, shock lands that Snoop loves to see me pull so much. We have 2 so far. I think they're all 10 are in that set, but I'm not 100% sure. It might only be 5. I've never actually looked into it thoroughly, but I think all 10 are in the unset. So if that's the case, Infinity set. So if that's the case, then we've got 20% so far. If not, we're almost halfway there. Anyways, today is a response video. I'm rambling a lot because I'm a little nervous about this video. If you notice the title was called Am I the Problem or Is Magic? Something like that. I haven't decided for sure. Might go with Or Is Wizards. Either way, it's going to be that kind of video. And since I was having that kind of discussion at work this week, that plus the fact that I seen this video at the beginning of the weekend last weekend, I think. It might have even been earlier in the week last week. I know it's 8 days old, but I don't think I got to it in like the first 2 or 3 days. I think it was like 4 or 5 days old before I saw it the first time. It's a very interesting video. And there is a second video that I am going to be referencing a little bit later on. Is that a crack in my screen? Okay, no, good. I was going to say, I just got this laptop recently. Nope, it's just a hair. I shed hair and Kaiba sheds hair. There's hair everywhere. So we're going to be talking about that video as well. A little bit. But this is the main video I wanted to respond to. And I thought it was a very interesting video. I'm not going to play too much from either of the videos. Instead, I've written a whole series of notes, front and back, about this video. And I have a lot to discuss about it. Oh my goodness. Okay, you need the attention? You have something to say to the humans? Why are we mad at the marrowbone? What did the marrowbone do? So we're going to discuss this video. We're going to discuss a bunch of things that I have to talk about with regards to this video. And we're going to open some packs of cards for you guys too. So it's going to be a very eventful, very long video. So strap yourselves in, grab a drink, all that good stuff, make a snack, you know? Anyways, the main crux of this video, and I'm just going to talk about the principal point of the video before I actually let him present his argument in full. At least the part of the argument that I think was the best explanation of the argument for you guys. It was like really well summed up over like a 4-minute period. Anyways, the main argument here is that this fellow here is a YouTuber named Tempest Official, and this is going to be the final video that he puts on his channel, which is why I don't want to play too much of it, because I don't really want to like attract a whole bunch of people to go over to this channel, because essentially he's ending the channel. And the reason he's ending the channel is mainly due to his feeling on how Magic is now compared to what Magic was. And a lot of it has to do with Universes Beyond. Some of it does have to do with what happened with regards to like the Commander bans that happened last year and all the fallout that came from that. But most of it does seem to be a Universes Beyond argument. He basically goes on about Universes Beyond for about 45-50 minutes. He does also cover a whole bunch of deceptive practices and promises that have been broken by Wizards of the Coast, which is why I, as I said, am presenting this title as Am I the Problem? Basically, am I the problem because I'm a Universes Beyond lover, essentially? Not lover per se. I'm a fan of Universes Beyond to an extent. There are parts of it that I am not enjoying. For example, the Spider-Man series, while I do like some of it, his argument in here is very valid for Spider-Man. And I am going to present later that there are parts of Spider-Man that I'm actually really not happy with right now. So there is validity to his argument with regards to Spider-Man being a not-so-great thing, and Universes Beyond in general, for that matter. But my main point of it is, though, or at least my main takeaway was, crud, there goes my headphone, was that, I hope that didn't start and stop the video. No? Okay, good. That would be bad. I'm trying to set up the camera stick for when I want to show you some cards later. It's gonna be like right over top of my head, but that's okay. Ugh. Anyways, yeah. So the goal of this video is to present his argument and discuss where is the problem with regards to Magic, because I agree there is a problem with Magic right now. And that problem with Magic can easily be summarized into two things. One, the crazy amount of Universes Beyond that has taken over the game. The fact that there are 4 out of 7 Magic mainline sets coming out next year that are all Universes Beyond, and out of the 3 that we have for regular Magic, 2 of them are just like revisits. He presents that, and it's valid. On the other hand, the other issue that I have is things like this, where we're talking about actually changing the hybrid Magic rule. And how a lot of people are starting to get behind it, whereas I personally think that that might doom the game that I actually came over to really enjoy to a certain extent. I think that it's going to make the game significantly worse if they do that. So, yeah. Anyways. So like I say, at the beginning he expresses how Universes Beyond is kind of ruining Magic for him. Which is funny because Universes Beyond is actually what brought him into Magic. He really started playing because of Baldur's Gate. And I find that funny because I actually started playing Magic not because of Universes Beyond. I came into Magic long before Universes Beyond, and simply put it down because I didn't have anyone to play with. I started playing Magic in my 4th year of university. I met a new group of friends that year, and they were all actually interested in the cards. And I ended up playing with them for a full year, and then I played with one of those people ended up being my roommate for the 5th year. And he and I and a couple other people in our house actually got into Magic and started playing some. And we had a lot of fun with it, and it was really cool. Um, and then afterwards, when I moved home back to my small town that I grew up in and stayed there for several years, I just didn't know anybody to connect with to play Magic, and my cards just got put away, and I never touched them again for a really long time. What brought me back to Magic, though, was a Universes Beyond set. As I've mentioned several times, it is the Lord of the Rings set that brought me back. Yes, Puggy Baby. So, I love the Lord of the Rings set. It's probably easily in my top like five favorite sets, if not in my top three. I think Bloomborough might be my favorite set overall, but as of right now, but I mean, I'm still like a huge fan of a lot of different types. Anyways, what I wanted to do now is present his argument that he makes it in the best way that I saw and enjoyed, and then we're gonna talk about a whole bunch of stuff that he covers afterwards.
But when I'm looking at the set and I'm looking at the cards that have gone into this, first we have to keep in mind that initially this was supposed to be a more limited release, and then they
He
expanded this
starts
to
by
a more
talking about
standard
Spider-Man.
set. And I think that bloat that happens secondarily is obvious. When we're looking at cards like City Pigeon or Rent is Due or Imposter Syndrome, using this specifically because of the art that it demonstrates. It's a meme. It's a meme of the real world, and it's in my card game. Taxi Driver, and of course, Bagel and Schmear. This is just completely inconsequential stuff on my cards. And this also is a direct analog to the real world. We're putting in the real world at this point, and again, remember what I said at the beginning, setting. Spider-Man, Miles Morales, etc., is the real world. Marvel is the real world through a sort of fictitious or sci-fi lens. And yes, you can make an argument that that is enough to put it into one of these other settings. For instance, I think back to like Arabian Nights, for instance. This is just sort of like that set from MTG is sort of like what a white guy's idea of the Arabic uh, geographical location would have been like. But the difference is they relied heavily on the fantasy elements and they incorporated that, like Charizard, for instance, or Aladdin's Lamp, or Flying Carpet, um, even like the Bazaar of Baghdad. That art has this really fantastical artwork, and I think that that does a lot of heavy lifting. Even in these sets, it didn't directly represent the real world, and even though it was, in theory, sort of an analog for what we're currently talking about, it's a real world representation through a largely Universes Beyond product, Arabian Nights, that is. It fits the theming because it's highly fantasized and it's something that was clearly well constructed, or at least well thought through at the time. But when we're looking at cards like City Pigeon or Bagel and Schmear, or putting in a modern meme into the card game like Imposter Syndrome, it's just hard to sort of break out that shell and give this set sort of the leeway that you would otherwise want to give a set to allow it to fit in better into the MTG sphere. I also think that the SpongeBob cards are the same. Now, I love SpongeBob, don't get me wrong. I could quote dozens, maybe hundreds of lines from that show. I grew up on this show. I love that IP. And you know what? I'm not even that mad because they're not mechanically unique cards that were printed in the SpongeBob Secret Lair.
We got about one
But
more
the thing
minute.
is, when I see that show up at my table, it does the same thing. It brings you out of this fantasy world because this is clearly a setting of which is unbefitting to go into the MTG sphere. And I think that's the big takeaway I need folks at Wizards to hear first and foremost, right at the front of the video, 14 minutes in, lol. But that's it. Setting. These sets that we just talked about do not fit into the MTG space as seamlessly as previously mentioned sets like Warhammer or AFR or Baldur's Gate. These things are easier to look past because they fit so well into the pre-existing setting of what MTG has grown to become. And I think that's what we need to look at moving forward. So,
I'm gonna stop it there because that's basically the crux of his argument, and I think it's a really valid argument. And I like that he presented how excited he was about SpongeBob because it reminds me of like I connected with this because I have the same situation right now. I see oh my goodness, I'm having trouble speaking today. I have seen some of the spoilers already for Ninja Turtles, and I am like stoked for TMNT as a set. I have every intention of buying the Commander deck for sure. I'm probably going to try and go to the pre-release if I can afford to, and I'm going to buy enough packs to at least do a new set versus old set series for sure. Beyond that, I don't know how much I'm going to buy. It's not going to be like Avatar where I bought like a box of Jumpstart and a box of regular because I'm just so excited for the IP, first off. And second off, since they didn't give us commander decks, I figure if I bought enough Avatar, I could actually build at least one commander deck purely in that environment. Hopefully, maybe even a couple. And then I would still have enough cards left over that I could actually throw them into a bunch of other commander decks. And of course, my Appa over here has my cube in it for Jumpstart, and I'm excited to put a whole bunch of Avatar product into that too, to make my cube really flushed out in a fun and unique way. But when it comes to Ninja Turtles is set in New York, just like Spider-Man is, and just like that, and just as SpongeBob not being in New York, but just in general, all those things are very not part of magic. And he's going to get into Walking Dead, and Walking Dead definitely did not fit with magic. Excuse me. And I'm not actually going to cover like the bulk of the video where I'm going to let him talk because for the next like 24 minutes, according to my notes, he has like a whole bunch of receipts that he has for Wizards of the Coast. And I'm going to go over his points like really fast rather than let him say them for that long because I don't want to like get copyright striked and everything else. You're going to take a little nappy? Okay. That's a good puppy. Before I do that, though, I think I will rip the first pack, and then I will get into those notes, and then I do want to continue the video from there. Hopefully this will hold while I hold like this. It's going to be really weird, but there we go. Okay. First pack's going to be Aether Drift. I'm going to go across, so I'm going to open Bloomburrow last, since that one's my favorite. Did Aether Drift have a... No, hopefully. I was going to say, hopefully it doesn't have a pack trick, because I definitely just blew it if it does. Ooh, we got a really cool art card to start us off. That's nice. I like that. Which one is this? I think it's Commander, isn't it? Justine Jones. Far Fortune End Boss. Yeah, I think that's a Commander of some sort. Cool. We got Bright Field Glider. 1 white for a 1/1 Vigilance. Possum Mount. Excellent, because I need more mounts. Whenever this creature attacks while saddled, it gets +1/+2 and gains flying. Saddle 3. Solid start. Crash and Burn. Choose 1, destroy target vehicle. Crash and Burn deals 6 damage to target creature or planeswalker. Costs 4, but it is instant speed, so that's not terrible. Engine Rat. Another zombie. And another rat. Either way, I can put into one deck of some sort. 1 black for a 1/1 with Death Touch, and 5 and a black, each opponent loses 2 life. That's expensive, but I mean, sure, it's plausible. Run over, 1 and a green. This spell costs 1 less to cast if it targets a mount or a vehicle. Target creature you control deals damage equal to its power to target creature and opponent controls. Nice. Classic. And good. I'm still a fan more so of the glider than anything else we pulled, though. Guide Light Optimizer. 1 and a blue. Tap to add blue. Spend only to cast an artifact spell or activate an artifact ability. I mean, I just finished my blue deck, touching it up, and then you give me this. It is a 2/1, which base toughness kind of sucks on it, but otherwise, that is definitely a really good card. Trip Up. Target non-land permanent owner puts it in their choice at the top or bottom of their library, cycle 2. I'm not a huge fan of that because it gives them the choice. Ticket Tortoise. 2 for a 3/1 artifact creature, Defender. When it enters, if an opponent controls more lands than you, you get to create a treasure token. I do like getting some treasures, but... And treasures will come up at the end of this video, actually, so that's kind of funny. Nesting Bot. 1 white for a 1/1. Start your engines. Always a fan of the start your engines mechanic, even though this is a series that a lot of people were really not a fan of. Or a set. Oh, sorry, not a series, a set. I thought start your engines was kind of a neat thing. It's just... I'm not a huge fan of the maxing out. That's where I was like, you should have to like keep adding to it or something. Anyways, when this creature dies, create a 1/1 colorless servo, and it gets +1/+0 once it hits max speed. Fuel the Flames, 2 and a red, deals 2 damage to each creature. Yeah, it's pretty good at instant speed. I'm not upset with that. Ooh, we pulled a legendary, first one of the day, and it's a mount bonus. Green and white, so it'll fit the deck that I want to put mounts into. Flying, whenever this thing attacks while saddled, put a +1/+1 counter on each of up to 2 target mounts and/or vehicles. Perfect. That is excellent for the deck I want to put it into. Ooh, Guidelight Pathmaker. 4 white and blue, full art. Beautiful. Vigilance vehicle, so I can use, but it's blue-white, so it won't go in the deck I want it to go into. Darn. Still cool, though. When it enters, you may search your library for an artifact card, reveal it, put it onto the battlefield if its mana value is 2 or less. Otherwise, put it into your hand. It costs 2 to crew it, and it's a 6/5. That's damn good. Whoops. Accidental reveal. Agnosaur Rex. We got a dinosaur for our, rare. 3 and 2 green for an 8/8 trample. Cycle 2 and a green. When you cycle this, put 2 +1/+1 counters on up to 1 target creature or vehicle against trample and indestructible until end of turn. Interesting. You can cycle at instant speed, right? I think you can. It's pretty good. Thundering Broodwagon. 2 black, and 2 green. 6/5, it is a uncommon for our hollow. Menace and Reach, that's pretty decent. When it enters, destroy target non-land permanent an opponent controls with mana value 4 or less. Crew 3, and it has cycling 2. Okay. And an island. Decent first pack, for sure. Very decent. I'm going to say that for sure we pulled some really good stuff for that. I'm especially happy with this, so that legendary is going to be great for my first grade of the day. It's going to be fantastic for my green-white mount deck that I want to build. Mount/vehicle deck. Anyways, pack 1 done. I will set that aside, take you guys back to my hand. And we'll get back to this. So, as I said, he has a whole bunch of stuff here that he covers, so I want to just try and go over it as super quick as possible. There are 4 events that happened in the history of Universes Beyond and with respect to Wizards in general that he covers as to reasons why he feels it's not a company that people should support anymore, essentially. They're very deceptive. They're very... they don't treat their player base with any sort of respect. They're all about their shareholders, essentially. And these are his points. And he has, all kinds of, tags in his video. If you do want to go to his video and check it out, I will probably put a link to it in my description. Probably being the keyword, because again, I don't necessarily want a whole bunch of people going over there and upping his channel and trying to encourage him to come back because he doesn't want to, and I don't want people to make him per se. But first he brings up Walking Dead, which came out as a secret layer with mechanically unique cards in October 4th, 2020. And it really kind of split the player base into 2 camps. One camp was really excited for it. The other camp was really disturbed by the idea of it because mechanically unique cards in a very limited product that is going to be difficult to access means that there's going to be a lot more value put on those cards that might not necessarily be put on there normally, first off. And second off, it's not really fair to the player base who will want to play with them. And the reply to that came on September 20th, 2020 from Mark Rosewater, who said that the cards could be reprinted in Magic versions in other products at a later date. And therefore, if you missed out on this, it wasn't the biggest deal in the world. And while it's not technically a lie, they did reprint it, but they didn't do so until September 8th, 2023. And they did it at such a severely limited rate because what they did is they put them onto the list, and then they included them in the total number of list cards for that set. So, first off, you had to pull one of the list cards in general, which I think he says in this video that there was a total of 46 of them, maybe. So, you're looking at roughly 2% chance of pulling one of them if you pull a list card at all. And then who knows what the rates are for pulling a list card in general in the Thrones of Eldraine, or sorry, Wilds of Eldraine set. So essentially, yeah, they were reprinted, but they're still so severely limited that they're worth an insane amount of money, first off, and second off, they're just not accessible to the player base. So yeah, if you have one, awesome. But if you don't, like I don't have any of those as far as I know, um, kind of sucks to be you. The next thing he brings up was an article where Wizards announced that Universes Beyond was officially going to become part of Magic from now on, which originally it was supposed to be not part of like mainline sets at all of Magic. It was supposed to be something that was kind of like, or when they bring this up, sorry, it was supposed to be like a standalone thing. It's not supposed to be like a mainline thing that happens all the time. It's like a once in a while thing, and the goal of it was mainly to just be something for flavor and for fun for people. And that came out on February 25th, 2021. And in that article, they made three very distinct quotes that I want to say out loud here. The first quote was that Universes Beyond would not be standard legal. The second was that it was going to be an above and beyond standard release product. And third, it was supposed to be an accessory printing. All these things are statements that they made in this article as basically like facts to the player base about Universes Beyond as a product. Because the player base was naturally nervous about Universes Beyond. There were lots of people talking about other games that tried to do this and the IPs failed. I can't remember which game he references specifically, but he does like have a very specific reference in here to a game that tried to do Star Trek as their product. And Star Trek flops so severely in their game because it wasn't a setting that fit into their game, which of course is the main point of his thing, and why he's worried about Universes Beyond being in this game. And a lot of people were too. And of course, they only managed to make that promise last until October 2024, where they announced that Universes Beyond was going to become standard legal. And this year, 2025, half of the sets that were mainline were Universes Beyond. And while I was definitely pumped for Avatar, of course, or I am pumped for Avatar, of course, and if I could have afforded it, I would have definitely bought into Final Fantasy. Final Fantasy is the one new set that I did not actually run on this channel, and it was simply because the packs were crazy expensive. I was not paying that kind of price for packs. Spider-Man packs are kind of silly. Canadian for me at the card shop I really like that I'm getting like the older sets from, they were selling Spider-Man for $10, and I think I've seen it at the best around like 8.59. So like it's still crazy expensive for one pack of Spider-Man in Canada at least, or at least in my area in Canada. But Final Fantasy was going for like $15 a pack or something. Like it was insane. There was no way I could afford it. Could have afforded it. Um and so yeah, again, promises broken. Next, there was a response to a post that he brings up. And the post said that if Universes Beyond promises can be walked back, which is what has happened now, because of popularity, essentially, then why not the promise with respect to the list? And with regards to that, um, the response in September 2025 was that Universes Beyond was not a promise for forever, which if you actually read the article in 2021, it really does read like it was a forever kind of thing. But sure, let's say it wasn't. However, the original promise about the list was uh, a forever thing. And the forever thing about the list is, of course, that there's all these cards from the original alpha and beta sets, and a few other sets, of course, afterwards, and what have you, that have insanely valuable cards that would lose their value if they got reprinted over and over and over and over again. And this is what actually led to the issue when the commander bans happened in 2024, and is about his second part of the video. And we'll get to that eventually, but I'm just saying it all kind of ties in, essentially. Everything that's happened all eventually ties into Wizards. And so, yeah. So The original promise was actually made in an article titled Reserve List back in March 4th, 1996. And what it was that Wizards would not reprint cards on the list to preserve the financial value. So, his, of course, answer to that in this video, and it's a really obvious one, but I mean, it's a very, very valid one, was what they did with Magic 30. And it's kind of funny because this response is actually happening in September 2025, but Magic 30 was back in what, 2022, 2021, maybe even. Um, it was definitely before I started playing Magic. I actually was a big fan of the Professor's channel long before I started playing Magic, and that's part of the reason why I switched over to Magic when I gave up Yu-Gi-Oh! Because I needed a new game, and that was the game that I just was most familiar with based on his videos. Um, so yeah, Magic 30 was of course 4 packs of proxy reprints from the list for $1,000, which are not the same thing as reprinting the real cards because they're proxies. They're just um, proxies that are official proxies from Wizards of the Coast, and proxies that, for at least a while, I believe were actually allowed to be used in like modern games, and like they had like maybe even in standard for a bit they were allowing it. I can't remember for sure, but I think that they were allowing those proxies to be allowed at like tournaments essentially for a little bit to hype the product. So essentially, yeah, they reprinted the list. And then finally, he comes down to a fourth point that she makes about with respect to um, they don't have the same game stewardship towards um, the Universes Beyond cards that they do towards their own in-house card, in-universe cards. And I think that that was a really good point too, and one that I actually have been wondering about myself a lot lately, and that is with respect to, of course, to the One Ring. And the One Ring, of course, was talked about being banned for probably well over a year. It June 20 came out on June 26, 2024, and that was the release date of Lord of the Rings. And it didn't get banned until December 16th, 2020. Or sorry, it came out in 2023. It didn't get banned until 2024. Sorry, my bad. Having a hard time reading my own notes. And it made it into up to 60% of modern decks before it got banned in modern, and it was legal for 542 days. By comparison, because Wizards used to actually ban cards much more frequently, and I don't like bans. You guys have been around the channel for a while, you know I'm actually very opposed to banning cards. Which is why when the bans came out in last year, I took a very huge stand against the bans originally, until I saw exactly how the player base responded, and then I realized that my video could have contributed to that response, even though that wasn't the intent of my video in any way, shape, or form. And I, at that point, felt really bad and was really disturbed by everything that happened. And there's a few different videos that are all on my channel. I never delete anything from the channel. I'm forced to by somebody who was in a video and doesn't want to see themselves on the channel anymore, for example, or something like that. But beyond that, um, this what was I saying? Sorry. This is about game stewardship essentially, and whether Wizards is actually more concerned about profits or more concerned about their game, and that's what the entirety of this argument has been for the last, like I say, 24 minutes of his video, and maybe 10 minutes, 15 minutes of mine. He presents that Hogak was printed in June 14th, 2019 for the first time, and it was banned by the end of August. So it was only legal for 73 days, and it only made it into 40% of decks. And Splinter Twin, which did last for many, many years actually in the game, but it only made it into about 15% of decks before it was banned. And when it was banned, Wizards stated that the play diversity was being grossly affected essentially by Splinterton being in the game and the combo that it presented with whatever other cards it was played with. I didn't play against Splinter Twin much, so I'm not really sure exactly what the combo was in Modern. But basically the reason it was banned was because there wasn't enough play diversity amongst like tournaments and things at tables, etc., because too many people were using that, and that was at 13 to 15%. But the One Ring got up to 60% before they finally said, yeah, okay, maybe this is a problem. And so, yeah, overall, the focus here is that Wizards is not, they're not respecting their players, they're not honoring their promises, they're too focused on filling the pockets of their shareholders, and that is essentially what his argument is. He then goes back into some more points in the video, and I just have a few other things I want to touch on. Um, the first being that um, there was, of course, that part where we discuss if you don't like a product IP, then don't buy it. It's not for you. It's something that the professor talks about all the time, and I don't remember who made that statement originally, but that statement's just insane. Um, but the crux of his argument going forward is it possible to avoid playing with slash against universes beyond cards? And honestly, it's really not. He makes a very valid point about it not being possible. And this is where I start to wonder if I'm the problem. Because he has a really good quote in here that I like, and I'm not sure if I can find it. I'm going to see if I can. See if I can get to it. It is within this time frame, so maybe we'll just watch this part of the video, just to 38. See,
Powerful. If it's a set that you don't like, oh, if you've been lied to, don't worry about it. Just don't engage with the product. I forget who it was exactly at WotC, but there was a public
I
announcement
just said
on
this.
Twitter where they literally said something to the effect of, "Yeah, if it's a product that you don't like, just don't buy it. Just don't buy it, bro.
While he's going through this, I'm going to open the next pack. I'm not going to talk about the cards, I'm just going to show them to you guys. But you guys can listen to his argument.
Or just dismissed by the sort of the representatives of the community. But anyways, this gets to a great point. You really can't play any of these cards without buying an IP you might not be fond of, and even if you don't play them, you can't avoid other people playing them. So this is true for modern and standard, of course. At like the top level, these cards in these sets are so strong that they have to show up in modern. So if you want to be competitive, even in the slightest, you have to use these cards. And even in the more casual formats like Commander, especially because now we've sort of reached a critical mass of cards, you are going to encounter Universes Beyond probably at every single pod. And why do I say that? I say that because get ready for some stats, guys. Brace yourselves. So, over 30% of all legendary creatures printed in all of Magic's history are now Universes Beyond characters as of the Avatar release. What the fuck? Like, what is that? It's like, this is just, it has become the game itself. And I think that's what people are concerned about. Now, when you show up at a pod, it's not like there's a 1 in 20 chance or 1 in 10 chance that you're going to come across an occasional Universes Beyond commander. You are going to see these cards at every table. And that's just legendary creatures. Let's not even get into the massive quantity of cards that also are Universes Beyond that are not falling into that legendary creature category. Tons of cards that you absolutely cannot avoid because, well, other people are playing them even if you are not. And moreover, I think that the bigger part that bothers me is that many of these cards are mechanically unique, especially due to these power upticks and the incentivizing of the shareholder value. You want to make sure that people are going to buy the damn set. How do you do that? You make cards really powerful. You make them so powerful that you cannot avoid them even if you try, brother. So, from that perspective, these cards are not only mechanically unique, not only have they
Okay,
demonstrated
that's
a
insane.
willingness to
That's a really cool
in a
card.
very meaningful way with an in-universe treatment, but also it's impossible to
Ooh.
avoid them through Universes Beyond. Now, these cards are going to get played, and they're going to continue to get played. And to me,
Not bad.
that was sort of the moment when I realized this like a year and a half ago that I just need to take a big step back from this because the game that I fell in love with no longer resembled the game that I was playing. Does that make sense? Because of again 30%, all this we've already talked about. It's
So yeah, So that was the quote I wanted to get in there onto the video, was the 30% thing, because I think that's insane. And that was actually what really hit this video home for me, and what made me really start to think about, is this partially my fault? Because I encourage people to play Magic through my videos, of course, and I am definitely interested in most Universes Beyond products. Spider-Man, admittedly, I haven't bought as much of, but I did buy more of it than Final Fantasy. But I mean, Lord of the Rings, you've seen me open tons of times on this channel. I really do like the Dungeons of Dragons set too, and I'm excited for Avatar and Ninja Turtles. And when he brings up 30%, that really hit home for me because of this. So this stack right here, and I'm just going to turn this sideways and show it to you from this side too. This stack of cards is all legendaries from Spider-Man. I currently have only opened 3 packs for new set versus old set, and maybe 2 other packs on this channel, I think. Maybe 3 tops of Spider-Man. So I might have opened 6 total. And it has also come into Dollarama Draws of Destiny. You've seen me open some Spider-Man cards in that too. Between those 2 areas, I have already pulled 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24 legendary cards. 24 legendaries in 6 packs plus, I think 3 of these came from Dollarama, maybe 4. So let's say 20 in 6 packs. That rate is insane for legendaries. And if we continue with that rate, going into Ninja Turtles, going into all the Universes Beyond products for next year, by the time next year is done, that 30% could be as much as 50%. 50% of all legendary cards could be Universes Beyond. Every other commander could be a Universes Beyond card. At a certain point, Magic stops being Magic. That's what it ultimately comes down to. At a certain point, Magic has to stop being Magic if we continue at this rate. This rate is insane. He has an absolutely valid point in this, and it all stems back to Wizards made promises that they are breaking because of profits. And based on what I understand of how sets and things are designed and planned out years in advance, that promise that they made in 2021 about Universes Beyond not becoming standard, I seriously wonder if they knew at that time that they were lying. I wonder how many of the IPs we're seeing coming out right now with regards to Final Fantasy, Spider-Man, Avatar, Ninja Turtles, how many of these, SpongeBob, all the other things that have been out in secret layers, how many of them were planned out back in 2021 when the original promise was made that this wasn't going to happen? How long have they been lying to us? Because it's definitely true that they're lying. Whether they want to say it's a cheap little, it wasn't a real promise, or it was only like a temporary promise. I'm doing quotes, that's why the phone's moving up and down. Um, it's just not the case. It really isn't. And this comes back to, again, like 4 out of 7 mainline sets in 2026 are going to be Universes Beyond. And out of the ones that aren't, 2 of them are revisited sets. And he presents in this video, is this manipulative? Are they trying to manipulate the older players into staying by offering them sets that they want to see come back? Because they are making some new sets, but the new sets are very 50-50. Aether Drift, for example, has received mixed reviews. Murders at Markov Manor, or however, what, Karlov Manor, sorry. I always say the wrong way. I say it the meme way. The Murder series and the series Outlaws were both really poorly received. Although Outlaws has kind of grown on some people. It's grown on me for sure. But I mean, it was really poorly received at the time. Bloomborough was a huge success. Dustmorn was a huge success. So it's kind of like a 50-50 on new sets. But I mean, yeah. They're not making as many new sets. And the older sets are essentially there to encourage older players to not give up so that they can keep making money off the older players as well as bringing in the newer players. And the final thing that he brings up before he moves on to his second argument with respect to universes beyond and things is, does Wizards of the Coast really need to apologize to their player base? Could they ever become good stewards, game stewards again? Are we funding our game really essentially, or are we just funding the company in name that once made it? Those are the points that essentially I took away from the rest of his argument, and I thought it was a really good argument. And I was really impressed with what he presented, and that's why I want to respond to this. With that said, the remainder of his video, which is about a half an hour, is split between two things. It's split between the other reason why he left, which was due to everything that happened with the commander bans, and in particular with respect to how Josh Lee Kwai responded to them when he, like, I guess he took a plane ride and immediately came back to the studio and made like a really like angry video in response. And although he calmed down later and he apologized and things of that nature and made good with the player base, that initial response really triggered something in this guy, and he essentially stopped making Magic content because of that. That was the camel or the straw that broke the camel's back, he says. Um, and for me, I thought that was interesting too. But and then the rest of it is basically like a farewell to his audience, which well deserved. Um, I've kind of followed him here or there, but I've only been watching the channel maybe for the last like 2 or 3 years since I started actually playing Magic myself. So I mean, I haven't seen a ton of his content by comparison to what he's actually put out, but I've always thought his stuff was good. And it's sad to see him go, but he has every reason to do it, and he makes a very valid reason to do it, and he's made me wonder if I should do it, to be honest, to a certain extent. I his argument is a very moralistic one. He's come to the conclusion that he can't bend his morals. He can't twist them to continue with supporting Wizards and continuing making content like this for his fans when he doesn't believe in it. And he really hit me hard on this. And that part of it, though, I'm going to leave alone. But the part of the video that I do want to just touch on briefly before I move on to the other video and we finish opening these last two packs was with respect to what he was saying about Command Zone. He was saying that the perspective of his perspective on the bans was that they were well thought out because he actually took the time to speak to the original Commander Advisory Board that made the bans. He spoke to several of the members. He spoke to the like leader of it, the original leader of it, and like the bans were planned for a very long time. And while I speculated that that could have been partially influenced by Wizards themselves to manipulate this whole situation into what we have now, um, I'm not going to support that anymore per se. I feel that this man has done his research, and if he is saying that he's spoken to all these people and they were saying that it was like on the up and up, they did it for the right reasons, then I honestly want to just take this moment to say that I was wrong and I apologize for putting that conspiracy out there. At least I really, really hope that is the case. But I have faith in him. So let's hope that at least this is true. in a world where so many things aren't. But anyways, and then he goes on to talk about how the bans were basically made with respect to good game stewardship rather than inspired by financial value. But of course, the vast majority of the player response and the hate that followed and all the death threats and etc. that followed, all of that stemmed from the financial value of the cards that got banned. And while I definitely did believe that that was an issue with respect to the bans, I did also think that the bans were good for the game in general if the game needed them. And I don't play enough Commander really at a competitive level to know how much those cards really show up. I've never seen the cards that got banned to the extent that would ever warrant them being banned for myself. And that could just be because the players that I play with don't own those cards, or we don't proxy a lot in my area. Um, at least not to my knowledge. So I don't proxy myself. Um, but maybe I'll start after this. I don't know. I do know that I'm excited for Ninja Turtles still. I will probably buy some Ninja Turtles cards. After that, though, I don't really know what I'm going to do. And I mean, Ninja Turtles isn't until February. And if things keep going the way they're going, I might not even buy Ninja Turtles unless I'm buying it just for the artwork and the flavor. Because um, this game is really suffering a lack of game stewardship, in my opinion. And I think a lot of that is exactly tied to what is being said in this video, which is that Wizards is making decisions based on profits, not on game stewardship. And a greater case could not be made for that, in my opinion, personally, right now, than what we have going on with respect to this hybrid mana challenge, rules change thing. When the hybrid mana rules change was originally presented, a lot of people were actually, the audience was kind of really closely split, but it was still more negative than positive. I think the first poll that I seen had it somewhere around 56-44, something like that. And I thought that was crazy. And the reason I thought that was crazy, and I'm going to open a third pack while I talk about this before we open before we watch the last little clip that I want to show you and end on the Bloomborough pack. I really thought that that was crazy because the whole idea of limiting it to what colors your commander is determines what colors you can put in your deck really kind of determines a certain sort of alleyway or niche that you can play your deck in. Whereas if we actually open that up, I am really concerned about how much that's going to impact the game. I just want to double check and make sure this isn't a pack trick one. Nope. Okay. I don't think I have to do a pack trick for any of them. I might have to do it for Bloomborough, but that might be the only one. We got a zombie on the back and a rat on the front, so that is a perfect token for me, because I always need more of both of those. Well, I always need more zombies. The rats, though, I'm going to need more for when I build that rat deck eventually. But with respect to the mana hybrid thing, I didn't realize how few cards are actually going to be affected by it. They present in the video how few cards are actually going to be affected by it currently. And I want to emphasize the word currently on this, because I have a feeling of where this is going to lead, and I'm not overly thrilled with the idea of it. But we're going to get there. First, let's get through this pack, though. Cackling Prowler, 4/3, Ward 2, Morbid. At the beginning of your end step, if a creature died this turn, you gotta put +1/+1 counter on this thing? Nice. Hyena Rogue. Ooh, that's cool. I didn't know there was a Hyena Rogue. Run away together, 1 and a blue. Choose target creatures controlled by different players. They get sent back to their hands. I like that one, actually. You can choose yourself, or you can choose other people. Felidar Savior. Nice. Lifelink 2/3, 3 and a white. And when it enters, put a +1/+1 counter on each of up to 2 other target creatures. That is a good card. I'm not sure if that's in my cat deck yet, but it might make the cut when I re-edit it soon. Thrill of Possibility. Adds an additional cost to cast a spell, discard a card, and you get to draw 2. Decent exchange. Decent exchange. Hungry Ghoul. That's probably the first one that I'm like, on. You can sacrifice another creature by paying 1 and put a +1/+1 counter on this. It's okay. It's not amazing. You definitely have to give it something else to make that worthwhile to use. Involuntary Employment, on the other hand, I do love this one. Gain control of a creature, untap that creature, gains haste until end of turn, and you get a treasure token. At the cost of 3 and a red, you're getting 1 of the mana back, potentially. And, yeah. Pretty good all around. Always love to steal people's creatures. 2 and a... or just 2 colorless, sorry. Equipped creature gets +1/+1. Whenever it deals damage to a player, create a treasure token. Ooh, nice. And equip 1. Nice. That could possibly make it into my treasures deck. which we're going to be talking about shortly. So, very funny. I'm loving the irony today. We got the irony in the Aether Drift pack, now we're getting the irony in the Gold Vein pack. Reclamation Sage! Oh, this is insane. I love this card. 2 and a green for a 2/1. When it enters, you may destroy target artifact or enchant. Oh, it's not the one I thought it was, but it's still a good card. I thought it was a different one for some reason. Good Fortune Unicorn. 1, a green, and a white. Whenever another creature you control enters, put a +1/+1 counter on that creature. That's decent. That'll be good in my mounts deck, actually. Mischievous Pup. 2 and a white, 3/1. Flash. When this creature enters, return up to one other target permanent you control to its owner's hand. Arbiter of Woe, 4 and 2 black. As additional cost, you have to sacrifice a creature. This has flying. It's a 5/4, and when it enters, each opponent discards a card, loses 2 life. You draw a card and gain 2 life. Alright. We pulled loot. I haven't watched The Magical Historian in a while, but he would be so disappointed. I, on the other hand, am actually pretty excited about this. 2 and a green for a 1/4. You may play an additional land on each of your turns, so this is going in my landfall deck for sure. And 4 and 2 green, you can look at the top 6 cards of your library, you can reveal a creature from among them with mana value less than or equal to the number of lands you control, and put it onto the battlefield. The rest go to the bottom in a random order. This guy is insane and perfect for the landfall deck that I want to update and eventually put out as a real deck, not just a Commander Core Creator Challenge deck. So, beautiful pull. And Fiery Annihilation. 5 damage to target creature, exile up to 1 target equipment attached to that creature. If that creature would die, it gets exiled instead. Damn! Instant speed for 2 and a red, that's pretty good too. And we got a forest. I mean, that was a pretty solid pack. There was only maybe 4 cards there that I was like met on. The rest were actually really good hits. The Gold Vein is insanely good. The loot is fantastic. The Fiery Annihilation I love. Yeah. Awesome pack. Okay. So, get back to the Commander people now. And, so they present a whole variety of reasons why they feel that this is actually a positive thing for EDH. And, I'm not going to get into all of them, but essentially, I just want to cover briefly a few things. First off, just to put into perspective for everybody, in case you're not understanding, because I was a little unclear about a couple things. With respect to the new rule, if the card is in the command zone, it can be either or it can be both colors for the command identity of the deck, because essentially you could build a mono blue deck, for example, with a commander that is blue and green, if you really want to. It would be insane because you would never really be able to pull out the commander unless you had another green in there, but with a split identity, it's doable. And then from this point forward, that would also apply to the 99, whereas previously, if your commander's identity is blue, white, green, let's say, and a card is green and black, that green-black card cannot go in, even if it is split mana, because you don't have black in your commander's identity. Whereas now that green-black card could go in if the new rule goes into place, because the split means that you're only playing it as a green card, essentially. Now, what they do go over is a lot of cards that you might think are split cards are not actually split cards because they have mana values in their rule text too. So they give an example of a black-white card that is a legendary that actually ends up being, it has to remain black-white because it has a line of text about black and a line of text about white. If a white spell is played, something happens. If a black spell is played, something happens. So no matter what, you have to play that as a black and white card. Whereas the cards that we're specifically focusing on, it only applies to the color identity. So, with that said, that means in total it should only affect about 450 cards currently, and a lot fewer of those cards are actually going to be usable in anything worthwhile putting them in. They might be flashed in for fun. You might put them in a bracket 1 or bracket 2 deck for fun, but if you're actually taking the game seriously in terms of wanting to win, there's only maybe 24 cards, maybe 36 cards max, that you might actually be considering splashing into, say, a mono blue deck, just because the green-blue option card is insanely good for that deck. With that said, they also cover the reasons why in 2008 the decision was originally made. And I want to go over those. And I actually wrote them out so I could read them off. So, the first reason, if this will focus, there we go. The first reason was the diversity of cards being played is increased if we don't change the rule. If we leave it that the rule is the way it is, in theory, you won't have an overflooding of everybody using the same card. A really good example of that would be a card that they actually brought up in their video, which is Leyline of the Guild Pact. That card is 4 green pips, but every green pip has an alternate color on that green pip. So it can be green red, green blue, green black, green white for the cost. So essentially, you could play it as a mono green card. You could play it as everything but green. I don't know for sure, but in my opinion, you should also therefore be able to play it as black-green, for example. If you were playing a black-green deck, you should still be able to slot this in, because it would count as black or green for the green-black pip, and would count as green for all the other pips. If that's not the case, I would love to know why, but in my opinion, based on how I understand this rule, that's how it should work. They also covered Beseech the Queen, which is a technically mono black card currently, but it's also black with 2 colorless pips for each of its 3 pips. So you either play 6 colorless, or generic mana rather, or you pay 3 black. And everybody makes a good laugh about playing that card in video, because why would you want to play that card for 6 in any deck per se, but the point being that these cards are usable. Now, the point I was trying to get to, though, is that Leyline of the Guild Pact could essentially go into any deck from this point forward if we change this rule. As long as that deck either has green or doesn't have green, it's doable. With that said, the other 2 reasons that they presented for not changing the rule originally were: proper segregation of the color pie is protected, and flavor of decks is better maintained. Now, in today's day and age, I'm going to disagree outright with number 3. I think flavor-wise, this might be a win to make this rule change. I have lots of decks that I can think of where I am playing a theme, and I think the theme is cool, but because I wanted to play certain colors, I specifically picked a commander for that deck that might not have been the original choice I would have went with if I had this option. If I had this option to make let's say, I can't think of one off the top of my head. To be perfectly honest, I really can't think of one off the top of my head. But let's say there was a commander out there that is blue-black. Oh, there's a Ninja Turtles, or there's a Turtle commander. No, never mind. I'm not going to count that one. It was, the pips are in the rules text. Let's say there's a commander out there that's blue-black, right? And I want to build a mono-black deck, but because I wanted to include a few split cards, I had no choice but to do a blue commander. I could take that blue-black commander completely out of the deck now and just make something new with it, or I could switch the commander around and include that card in the 99 if this rule change goes through. And all that seems kind of crazy to me. And at the crux of it, the end conclusion that they come to, which I think is interesting and I wanted to talk about, it's something that Josh Lee Kwai mentions, and I thought that was really interesting because, again, it ties back to the original video, is Josh Lee Kwai making another statement that really kind of hit home for me, and kind of turned me off of this idea even more so, and makes me really nervous about the idea going forward. And that is that he had heard something from one of the designers that if we make this change, it gives them an or option for when they design cards for Commander. And so essentially it's like, if we don't make this change, we're denying an artist a certain tool for being able to do their art. And why would you want to deny Picasso the color red if he wants it, for example? Just because the rest of his painting is in blue and green, why would you deny him red? Yes, that was really weird as an example, but I'm just saying, like, you can see my point. And when he said that, it just kind of really hit me the wrong way because I feel like we've already lost the point. It's barely been a year since everything got switched from what happened last year with regards to everything that upset the guy in the other video on the commander panel and the rules change and all the bans and everything else. So it's barely been a year, and we're already discussing a rule change that essentially will affect the designers and therefore the sales and the profits of Wizards in a positive way, but does it really help the game stewardship in any way, shape, or form? And honestly, I'm going to say I don't feel it is a good thing for the game stewardship. And here is a good example of why. Rachel Weeks is about to present one of the cards that she's eager to put into a bunch of decks going forward. And I am absolutely disturbed by the idea of putting this card into a bunch of decks. So I'm just going to let her talk for a second, and then I'll explain why.
Lash. So this is a Jund card, but it could go in a mono red deck if this change happens.
Oh.
It's 1 red, red, red. It says whenever a creature you control with haste attacks, create a tapped treasure token.
That's pretty sweet.
And that's a very cool tool for red decks to just explode out of the gate. And
Red has trouble with ramp, so
Yeah.
mono red for sure. Being able to like another thing that's going to give you some token creation, yeah, that's great.
yeah, it's cool in my Go-Go deck because Go-Go gives them both haste, and then you could
Then you can go.
freaking sick. Yeah, you get 2 Agneses attack big but 4 treasures. Anyway,
See, this
I
is
like
what
cards.
we want.
So, look how excited that face is. Look how excited both these guys are right now about the idea of Agnes going into mono red decks. Now, let's really think about this for a second. Let's take it back to the bans that happened in 2024. One of the key cards that was hit, one of the very, very valuable key cards that everyone was upset about losing, was Dockside Extortionist. Why was Dockside Extortionist one of the cards that everybody was sad about losing? Because it gave red all kinds of ramp. And it was one of those options, one of very few options, that did so for red. Because it was one of very few options that did so for red, everybody put it into a red deck that could afford to own one. That was essentially why it got banned, because it was in everything, and it was crazy, and it didn't allow for diversity of cards being played. It goes back to the 15% versus 60% argument we had with the One Ring versus the, what was that other card called again? Splinter Twin. It all goes back to the same thing. It's a very circular thing. I'm watching, it's like history repeating itself right now. We are about to possibly put Agnes into mono red, which means that Agnes will go into every mono red deck. Right now, Agnes is worth like maybe $3, I think, or something, last time I checked. Like, it's not worth much. I actually have an Agnes deck that's sitting right here beside me. The entire concept of the deck is built around giving my creatures haste, finding ways to do it, so that when I swing with them, I make a whole bunch of treasures. Because that is what I want to do with this deck. I just want to make more treasures and then pay for bigger spells and go crazy, essentially. That is how the deck runs. And that is what Agnes does. And if you put Agnes in mono red, he's going to go into every mono red. His price is going to skyrocket. And the next thing you know, he is going to be on the discussion list for being on either a Game Changers list or being banned outright. And we're going to be right back to the same situation again. And this is where I'm upset, and this is what really hits home for me, is if we make this kind of change, what are the odds that a lot of these cards that are split pips are going to end up getting banned? How many of these cards, they say there's only like 2 or 3 dozen, let's say. How many of those 2 or 3 dozen cards are going to end up in everything? And then you're going to have a problem where the format is being warped, and you're going to have complaints, and you're going to have people shouting for bans. And as you guys know, bans are the one thing I hate more than anything else in card games. Bans are essentially the band-aid that creators have to put onto a card game because they got too big, too fast, and they didn't keep track of things, and they didn't pay enough attention to how things interacted with each other, and they caused chaos in their game when they released something they didn't need to. The idea that games need crazy power creep is really kind of a thing that I've never actually thought was necessary. What you need to do for card games isn't necessarily to up the power level, it's more to expand the card game out, which is why I enjoyed Universes Beyond originally. But, as the original author presented, and I'm going to go back to his video because I would rather you look at his face for the rest of the video than mine or the Commander Zone people, his point is very valid. That Universes Beyond has essentially corrupted this game and taken it over to a point where it's not going to be Magic anymore in 2 or 3 years. By the time we get to, let's say, 2028, that 50% that I predicted for next year is going to be more like 80-85% if we're lucky. At a certain point, it's just not going to be Magic anymore. And that's really sad and disappointing. And ideas like the pips change and the flooding of Universes Beyond because we've accepted the idea of adding it to standard and etc has just really got me kind of depressed about this game right now, to be honest with you guys. And that's a big part of the reason why I refuse to open any Universes Beyond products in this video specifically. That and these 4-packs are the 4-packs that came with the Bloomborough kit that I was going to open originally for you guys in an earlier video, but it just didn't work out. So these packs worked out great for this video. But yeah, it's just, I don't know what to say anymore, guys. I don't know what to say anymore. I think I've made all the points that I can for this video. Hopefully I've raised an issue that will get spread and heard, which is that the Pips rule being changed will result in more bans. And I don't want to see more cards banned. I don't want to see my Ognis banned. I love Ognis. I like playing that deck. It's a very niche and silly deck, but it's fun and I love playing with it. And if you banned Ognis, the entire deck would fall apart. Because if that commander isn't on the field, it's one of those decks that if the commander isn't on the field, I essentially am not doing what the deck is supposed to do. And the deck kind of really doesn't function well. And it's one of those decks that really functions at like bracket 2 level, bracket 1 almost even, because it's very like theme oriented versus actually being like about trying to win. My main goal in that deck is to get a giant tree on the field, essentially. I have that one enchantment that flips over into a creature that gets +1/+1 for every land you control. And I basically want to try and get that card out onto the field every time and then give it trample and win the game by swinging at people with it. That is how I win with the treasure deck, usually. It's ridiculous, but it's fun. Did this one have a pack trick? No. Okay, we are good. No pack tricks today. Excellent. Ooh, we got a signed art card! Nice! I love signed art cards. They're the cutest. And they're also really cool because the artist has their signature on it. For the common good. Ellie Livingston? Livingston. Very nice. Yes, Kaiba. This is the last pack and then this video's done. We might make a couple more videos, but first we'll go have some lunch, because you seem hungry and you want to go for a walk too before it rains again, I think. Alright. Life Creed Duo, 1 and a white for a bat bird, 1/2. When another creature you control enters, you gain a life and it has flying. Excellent card. Take out the trash, 1 and a red. Deals 3 damage to target creature or planeswalker. If you control a raccoon, you can discard a card if you do draw a card. Interesting. I do have a raccoon deck I want to build eventually, so that would be good in it. Ravine Raider, 1 black for a 1/1 lizard rogue, menace, and pay 1 and a black, it gets +1/+1 until end of turn. Alright. Longstock Brawl is a good one. Give a tapped fish, choose a creature, put a +1/+1 counter on that creature if you gave the gift, and then the creature fights with a creature you don't control. So, not bad. Finch Formation, Offspring 3 for 2/2 flying. When it enters, target creature you control gains flying until end of turn. So you could give that trigger twice. That's not terrible, but not amazing. It's kind of we'll put it on, whatever. Junkblade Bruiser, I've pulled way too many copies of this guy. I don't need another one. 3 and red, green twice. So classic example of what I was just talking about. This video has really been like that with the packs. This one can go in mono red or mono green going forward potentially if we change the rule. Do we really want that? Do we really want to give a 4/5 with trample and expend 2, this thing gets +2/+1 into mono red? Because I don't think I do. Head of the Homestead. Nice, another bunny. I'm pretty sure I have many copies of this one though, but that's okay. When it enters, create 2 1/1 white rabbit creature tokens, 3/2 for 3 white and green in split pips. Tangle Tumbler. I like this vehicle. It's a decent one. Has Vigilance. It's a 6/6 for 3. The issue is you have to tap 2 untapped tokens in order to use it as an artifact creature. So you're going to have to be using it in like a treasures deck or something that's producing a whole bunch of tokens. But if you pay 3 and tap it, you can put a +1/+1 counter on a creature, which is also decent. Harnesser of Storms. I don't think I have this one yet. 2 and a red for a 1/4. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell or otter spell, you can exile the top card of your library until end of turn. You can play that card. Triggers once a turn. It's not bad. Beauregard Mentor. White and green for a trample rabbit soldier, and its power and toughness are equal to the number of creatures you control. Great for my bunny deck. Galewind Moose. Flash, Vigilant, Reach, Trample, 6/6 for 4 and 2 green. Decent. Phineas! An extra copy of Phineas. Not that I need one, but I do love him. He is very cute. He is going into my rabbit deck for sure. Whenever he attacks, you put a +1/+1 counter on every rabbit you control or every token you control. Well, actually, on every token, that's a token or a rabbit. So, I mean, if it's either or, then I don't think you get to do it for both if it's like a rabbit token, but I'm not sure. Anyways, if creatures you control have Pace Power 10 or more, you get to draw a card. It's not bad at all. Ooh, we got a forest that's in the winter scene. Nice. I'm not sure if I actually have that one yet. And Uncharted Haven. Enters tapped as it enters, you choose a color and you tap it to add 1 mana of any color. It's a nice land. Hollow. Decent way to end the pack. Alright guys, that is going to be it for this response. It was a very long response, I apologize for that. And I apologize to Kaiba over here who's put up with me being on video for a while. Yes, you're a good boy. We will go downstairs, we will have the lunch, and then we will go for your extra walk, hopefully if it's not raining. And then if Buddy Perry isn't back, I will make the Saturday video. That'll give me time to cut this one together and put it up on YouTube. Awesome. Alright guys, from Kaiba over here, and I, to you all, take care. Much love to you all. I hope you guys have enjoyed this video, and I'd love to hear your comments on what I've presented here. I'm interested in your thoughts, if you have any. Alright, have a great rest of your Friday, and hopefully a good start to your weekends. Bye!